This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Take It Outdoors Parenting. That's right. Take It Outdoors Parenting with Lee Hickinbotham. We are joined here live today from San Jose, California. Excited to talk to him, how he's helping so many of us, including me, frustrated parents out there. Stay tuned because he's really helping so many families restore the balance in the home and increase that amazing relationship between parent and child. So welcome to the show today. How are you?
Hi, Jill. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
This is a pleasure. This is exciting. I have an 8 and 10-year-old. I'm dealing with some
Mm.
difficulties. I'm sure a lot of us can heed to your advice and experience. So I'm excited to talk to you today. First and foremost, just please introduce yourself to our listeners today.
Thanks. So I'm Lee Hickinbotham. I'm the owner and founder of Take It Outdoors Parenting. And like you said, I help restore balance in the homes and help to build a relationship between the parent and child. Because as you said, with the two littles, um, sometimes we just don't know how to communicate at their level.
Well, tell me about you, your kids. How old are they now?
Oh, wow. My oldest is my boy, he's 29, and
Okay.
my daughter is 20.
Amazing. So you got some
Yeah,
experience under your belt for sure. We're going to get into that.
I do.
But again, you're here helping so many frustrated parents, restoring the boundaries, repairing the relationship. So I got to ask, tell me what inspired you to become a life parent coach? How did this all work? I got to hear a little bit of your background.
Yeah, so it's an interesting story actually. Gosh, where to start? So I'll start off with basically how I thought about becoming a life coach. Last year, a good friend of mine, their adult daughter passed away suddenly, and I went back to visit them. They live in Arizona. And when I got there, the wife, Teresa, as soon as I got out of the truck, she just comes up, hugs me, and just tears, 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 tears on both ends. And I sat down with her, and she just needed to talk. Her husband, Warren, he's not much of a talker. And when he is, he kind of hijacks conversation. So I just listened. And so she got everything off her chest. And then the next day, Warren and I went out. We jumped in a couple kayaks and we went fishing. And I said, hey, let's talk. And he's like, you've known me since we were 12. I'm not much of a talker. Just being in the outdoors with
Yeah.
you is enough to it's like
Oh,
therapy for me. And I said, okay. So the next day I was getting ready to come back to California. And Teresa said, you should be a life coach. And I went,
oh,
nah. But then I started listening to podcasts on the way back, and
there you go.
and I realized, with my experience that I have, this is something I can do. And so, to give you a little background about my experience, I've been in law enforcement for 25 years,
Wow.
and I'm a hostage negotiator. I'm a peer support specialist. I'm also a parent educator. I've been teaching parenting classes for 10 years. And then, so with that background, I'm already kind of doing the job. And so I went out and got certified to become a life coach. And then I started my business.
Oh my goodness. What an amazing background. And by the way, where are you located specifically?
I'm in San Jose, California.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah,
congratulations. This is exciting
thank you.
work. You've done so much. I can't believe it. And then you go and do over 60 hours of training to become a certified life coach. Wow. Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So, let's focus on, well, where do we start? What did you want to focus on? Because there's
Oh
so many
boy.
different aspects of your work.
Yeah, yeah. So, with my business, what I like to do is I like to just educate parents because when we think about raising our kids, we raise our kids how basically we were parented growing up. And whether it was good or bad, depending on your relationship with your parents and how they raised you, um, there was a lot of times I know when my kids were younger, I said, I wish I had a manual on how to raise my kids, right? Because my son, 8-year difference between my daughter, two different kids. I had to raise them differently because you can't raise them exactly the same, different personalities. The thing is, we don't control our kids. However, we do control everything that they have, right? So as we're raising them and we need to set boundaries, and if they go beyond those boundaries, um, children don't think logically, they think emotionally. And so therefore we have to remember that because as adults, we're thinking logically, but they're just all over the place with their emotions. And so we have to basically communicate on their level, but with boundaries.
Wow. So you really here helping parents, and some of us don't know how to do that. And you're a miracle worker. I want to know how it works and how you're helping the children and understanding this because you say we control their things. What does that mean specifically?
Yeah, so let's say that you want your child to clean their room, right? And you say, okay, I want you to clean your room. And they're like, no. So you just say, okay, then give me your phone, give me your laptop,
Yes.
give me, if they're youngers, then give me, all your favorite toys. I'm taking them away from you until you clean your room. And so one of the things that I teach is kind of you give them as much time as they need. Hey, like my daughter's Cassie, I would say, Cassie, take as much time as you need to clean the room, but you're not getting your stuff back until you do it. And so therefore it's on her. So if she doesn't clean her room for 2 days, I've kept her stuff for 2 days. If she cleans her room in 5 minutes, she gets her stuff back in 5 minutes. So we're putting the ownership back on them.
Beautiful. I like that. I'm doing that now with my 10 and 8-year-old because the
Hmm.
10-year-old doesn't listen. He's very defiant with me. He's great in school, great. I
Yeah.
worry. But all I've been trying to do is, well, not all I do. It's I take away the phone or the iPad and it seems to work. But I also feel like maybe that's just not enough. What else am I doing wrong? What else can I do? Because I feel like it keeps happening over and over again. It's a little repetitive, you know? So I'm worried that like, okay, well, if this isn't going to work anymore. What other things can I do as a parent to get that respect that I need and deserve and want?
Yeah, and that's a good thing. We say the respect that we need, but we also need to give our children respect at times, right?
Ah, yeah.
And I like to say use positive strokes. And what that means is we're so often we nag at our children.
Yeah.
Hang up your clothes, pick up your clothes, pick up your toys, do this, do that, do this. But when they actually do it, we just expect, okay, we've been telling them so many times. So a positive stroke is, let's say that you've been telling your child to hang up their jacket when they come in the door, and every day they just throw it on the ground. And that one time they
Ah.
actually hang it up, you give them a positive stroke. You say, hey, thanks for hanging up your jacket today. And then you move on. You don't dwell on it and you just move on. So the more that our children's going to hear these positive strokes, it's kind of that
Ah.
reinforced good behavior.
Got it. All right. That's my thing with my son. I said, every day you come take the backpack in, you put the water bottle in the sink so I can wash it. And he forgets all the time. And the 1 or 2 times he's done it, I say, oh my God, that's amazing. Thank you so much. But it hasn't really worked. I'm
Yeah.
lacking something too, as well.
And that's it. We have to have house rules. And so what I like to tell my clients sometimes is for the house rules, it almost has to become like your artwork. You have to write them out so the children can see them. This is the rule. This is the consequence. So if you don't put your water bottle in the sink,
Yep.
then you lose your
Perfect.
phone for an hour, right? Or you lose
Beautiful.
gaming or something like that. And you don't have to argue because that's what we do. We argue,
We
argue, argue. And
do.
after a while, they quit listening to us. So if we don't argue with them, we just point over at the poster board that says, put your water bottle in the sink.
Yep.
Consequence, you lose your phone. And you just look up and say, give me your phone.
Great idea. Thank you so much. I'm going to put it on the door. Actually, I could do it today. All right. Thank you for that tip. And also, everyone here listening today, there's so much that you have to help teach us because, I want to hear more about the work you're doing. But first, I just want to back up and go back to, um, you know, some of your notes here. You wanted to talk about, growing up as a mentor. How were you raised parenting wise, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about that? And what's changed over the years with parenting that you've noticed since you've been in this already. Your kids are a little older.
Yeah. So, I'm obviously Generation X, and so I was raised up of you don't ask questions, you do as you're told, and if you don't do as you're told, you're pretty much spanked. And that's how I
Mhm.
was raised. But as I became a parent, I pretty much refused to spank my children because I didn't think by hitting them that was going to be enough to get the point across. And so admittedly, for years I was a yeller. I'd yell at my kids
That's me. That's me. And
and
I don't like it. It's like my mother.
right? And then so nothing would happen. And it's the same old repetitive insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting different
Yep.
results. And so then I got into part of my background in law enforcement is I was a school resource officer. And so I was at the schools and I was responsible for 9 schools and interacting with students and parents and counselors and principals. And there was this program that the counselors were offering to parents called the Parent Project. And so I looked into it. I became an instructor for it. And that helped also to just change my outlook on parenting. So a lot of the things that I do as a parent coach is based on the Parent Project. And
Wow.
it's a 10-week program. And then I take those skills and go deeper into it with my clients, kind of on a one-on-one. And it teaches the main thing they start out with is like love and affection, right? Because even though you might tell your child or think your child knows that you love them and occasionally tell them, we need to tell them every day. We need to send them a text. We need to give a little post-it note or something in their lunch pail. My son's 29. Probably once a week, I'll send him a text saying, hey, bud, love you. And I would say 9 times out of 10, he'll text me back, say, thanks, Dad. I needed that today, you know?
Oh, that's beautiful. All right, affection and love. And by the way, how does this
Yeah.
process work to work with you? With this, is it one-on-one, individual? Could you explain a little bit? And we're able to do this virtually, I'm assuming?
Yeah, yeah. So I like to do one-on-one. I have done group talks before and I can do that as well. But the one-on-ones work best. If you're in my area, what we do is the whole basis of Take It Outdoors is
Yes.
we
A
go
hike?
outside. We go on a hike. We go on a walk. Or like I had a client who just wanted to sit in the park and just talk. And so we would do that. But I like to use the outside because every time for me, anytime I would get stressed out, I'd go on a hike and it would seem to just recharge and reset me. And I'd come home and I'd feel a lot better. And so I do that with my clients. Now, obviously, you're in New York, and if we have some clients that aren't within a 50-mile radius, because I'll drive that far to meet with a client, but if you're not
Yeah.
in that radius, then I will meet via Zoom or we can talk on the phone or something like that.
Beautiful. I love hearing this. This is like the old school way of going back to like what's important, like nature. And I hate to say this, but a lot of our kids are on the iPads, on the TVs, on their phones. And it's just like, I feel like we lost touch with the outdoors. They're not playing outside as much. They're not getting that fresh air. They're not doing what we did as kids. And clearly that has a lot of, disadvantages. But I love that you're bringing that back here, with your work. And just curious, did you have a mentor in your life? Are you mentoring anyone as well?
You know, if I look back and try to think of one particular mentor, when it comes to parenting, not really. I mean, of course, I love my dad and my mom, and they did the best they could based on how they were raised. Um, but no one, and there was probably somebody that subconsciously, was a mentor to me that if I really thought about it, I could think of a name. But as far as myself mentoring somebody, um, we're mentoring people every single day, whether we know it or not, right? And so that's why we have to do our best. And because everybody's watching, especially in these days with social media and cameras, and everybody's watching you. And so I just like to try to do the best I can. With my clients, they sign up for their sessions, which cost obviously. However, what I do is I'm doing a constant check-in. I'm constantly texting them, checking in how things are going. I tell them, hey, if you need a quick phone call, 15 minutes is free. I'm not going to charge you just to kind of help you through maybe where you're stuck until we can meet again.
Wow, beautiful. I love hearing this. I want to hear more stories about how you're impacting people, parents, children, and if you can, give us some examples of, the work you've done and the people that you've worked with and how it's really helped them in so many different facets of life.
Yeah, well, thanks. So, to go back, it's funny when I was a school resource officer, I actually years ago I was a park ranger, and so I was a park ranger for a long time before I got into the law enforcement, and so I brought the lawn or the being in the outdoors into my job as a school resource officer, and I created a leadership camp out for at-risk teens, and I would take a group of kids out camping for the weekend and
Ah,
set them up into different scenarios where they had to be a leader and guide their team through making dinner, setting up the tent. I would take them out on a trail and then show them how to read a map and say, okay, this is where we are, get us back to camp. And then, kind of wait and hope we didn't get lost. So I'd make sure I was on a trail that we couldn't get lost. But that's kind of how it started back then. And now what I do is when I take a client out, and from all different ages, I have a client right now who has an 11-year-old that I'm working with. I have a client who has a 19-year-old that I'm working with who is an adult child
Wow.
that she's trying to get to leave the nest, right? And it's difficult. And one of the things is we have to remember that when our kids turn 18 and 19, we assume, okay, they're adults, they know they can do their own thing, but they're clueless still, right? And we still have to guide them and we still have to be there to say, okay, this is what you need to do. I'm going to guide you, but I'm not going to do it for you,
Got it.
right? One of the
Got
things
it.
I like to look at, I mean, you've heard the term helicopter parent,
Oh,
I'm sure.
yeah. Yes.
Okay. And so a helicopter parent is someone who is constantly hovering, constantly making sure do this, constantly, I like to say nagging.
Yep.
But I
Been
heard
there.
this term, and I'm not going to take I'm not going to take credit for this one. I heard it somewhere else called a lighthouse parent. And a lighthouse parent, if you look at a lighthouse, stands tall, has this beacon of light that goes
Yeah.
out over the ocean to guide ships from crashing into the rocks, right? That's what we need to do. We need to be lighthouse parents and we need to guide our children. We need to shine that light out for them so that we can guide them. We're not steering the boat for them. We're just making sure they don't crash.
Wow, I like that
Yeah.
terminology. I never heard of that. That's beautiful. There's something to be said for the lighthouse. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, also, I mean, if you are just tuning in, just want to remind everyone, Lee Hickenbotham joining us here. Take it outdoors parenting, really inspiring so many children, families, parents, children, and he's just working with them for, more communication to bring people together and repairing relationships. Could you share a story about maybe a relationship of a child and parent that wasn't so good that you were able to help fix?
Yeah. So I had this parent that their child kept running away
Oh,
and basically just arguing and they weren't getting along. But just like some of the things we talked about earlier, I just kept encouraging the parent to not argue with the child, to give those positive strokes and to don't be afraid to compromise with your child, right?
mhm.
People look at it as, well, if I'm compromising, I'm bribing my child to do something. No. So if you have these, we talked about the house rules. How
Yeah.
about you sit down with your child and say, okay, we need to establish some rules in the house. What I want you to do is I want you to write down what you think the rules should be. I'm going to write down what the rules I think they should be. And then we're going to come together and we're going to go through the rules together and set the consequences for it. And if, especially with the younger kids like yours, 8 and 10, if you tell them, all right, set the consequence, they're like, okay, I'm going to lose my phone for 6 months. And then you come back and say, I think a week is maybe the longest we should take your phone away. Now you're getting the win, but in their mind, they think they're getting the win, right? Because
True.
their
Yeah.
consequence was so extreme. And so that's what I did with this parent. And it took a while. It took a couple weeks, month, a little bit more, but the child started coming around. And I think
Beautiful.
it's we need to just listen to them. Some of the things that when we talk to our children, we talk at our children. We
I
don't
was
talk
just
to
gonna
them.
ask, yeah, some advice for us out there. What are we doing wrong as parents? Be honest.
Yeah, we're talking at them and we're expecting that they know exactly what we mean. And so one of the things we can do is ask open-ended questions instead of the closed-ended. And then a good example is your kid comes home from school, what's the first thing you say? How was your day? Well, they're going to give you two answers, good, bad, right? Fine. But if you say, tell me about your day, and then when they say, well, it was fine, okay, so tell me what was fine about it, right? And
Ah,
then don't ask multiple questions at once, just one question at a time. So if you want to say, what was good about your day? Um, just stop right there. And then also with the littles 8, 10, younger, if they ask you a question, just answer the question. Don't go on with too much information and overwhelm them. Just answer the question.
All right, good to know. And are you seeing what is the difference you're seeing with parenting skills these days than it was back then? What are some of the things that we're doing right or doing wrong, would you say? I mean, you mentioned some, but what else did you want to add?
Yeah, this one's kind of a touchy one, but we're not our children's friends. So many
Uh-huh.
parents want to be the
They
best friend
think.
and said, "Oh, I'm my best friend," especially when they become teenagers. I want to, be cool, the cool and hip parent and you can be friendly with your child, obviously love your child, but don't try to be their best friend, because you can't be a best friend and then try to set consequences for actions because now you're kind of sending a mixed message and you're setting them up for failure.
Oh my goodness, you're so right. I so understand this. I'm dealing with it. I'm in the thick of it. But I do
Yeah,
like
you are.
writing things down. I do. That's a great advice, and that's so they could see it, like a kind of like a behavior chart in a sense. And by the way, what
Yeah.
ages are you working with?
Oh, I work from basically 19 all the way down to 4 years old. It just depends on what the parent need. It's not that different. Of course, some of the discipline is a little different. With the youngers, you're going to give more of a timeout and, not necessarily take things away. Versus 10 and up, you're going to start taking things away. But the younger ones, it's more of just, okay, you can either give a what they call a fixed timeout, and that's the old fashioned go stand in the corner
Yeah,
for 1 minute per every age. So your 8-year-old would be 8 minutes, and
got it.
then or a self-limiting timeout, which is simply saying, all right, like we talked about earlier, take as much time as you need to do this. And
Well,
so but you got to be careful on that because if your kid's refusing to go to school and you say take as much time as you need, well, you don't have as much time in the morning when you're trying to get them off to school and you got to get to work. So that's where maybe a fixed timeout or taking something away, not necessarily right at that moment, like it's a Wednesday, wait until the weekend when they
okay.
really have time to enjoy it, right? Because
Yeah.
that's going to hit home a little bit more than taking away that night only.
Well, I read on the website before a testimonial. I'm going to see if I could pull it back up about someone's kids getting bullied.
Yeah.
These are some parents in the Bay Area. It says we had a child that was bullied and assaulted at school, unbeknownst to us.
Hmm.
That had been happening for a couple of months. Finally, our child shared with us what was happening. We contacted the school right away, but we did not know if we were doing enough. We reached out to Lee because we remembered all of his work with various schools. By working with him, we understood the various nuances we needed for proper documentation and oversight. This helped to ensure that we are doing all that we could and should. Really happy to report the situation has been resolved. So you work with a lot of the schools as well?
I used to. So, as a school resource officer,
Yeah.
I would work with the schools. Now, there's a couple schools around that I go do presentations at, but I built a lot of contacts when I was a school resource officer, and some of those school staff members still call me and they'll ask for some advice but it's bullying is something that it's not going to go away. It's been around
Yeah.
forever, right? When I was younger, it was basically in person, you get beat up and that was pretty much it. But nowadays with social media,
Ah,
it's so easy to bully somebody because when you have your phone, and you're bullying someone online, you don't see the emotion. You don't, that person, whether it's tears, somebody crying because their feelings are they're just crushed or whatever you're saying about them, or they're not so mad that they're going to challenge you and try to fight you. And so
yeah.
that's why you're just looking at this one-dimensional screen and it's easy to bully. And granted, a lot of kids these days, um, don't really know the difference between teasing and bullying. Like I grew up in a
Mhm.
teasing household, and that's how my dad showed love to me. If he teased me and his friends, that means you were in and you were loved, you know? And so, but there's a fine line when it
Yeah.
crosses and it becomes bullying, and that's when it's repetitive and it's meant to hurt somebody. And if your child is being bullied, you need to get involved. And a lot of kids don't want you to get involved because they think it's going to get worse, but it's going to get worse anyway. And so you need to step up. You know, you can start off very minimum by contacting the school. Contact the bully. If you know who the bully is, contact their parents. But a lot of things I like to tell parents is that if a bully is bullying someone else, back when I was a school resource officer, I wouldn't just go automatically try to punish the bully because that bully has lost their power somewhere by being bullied by someone else,
So
another
true.
person, a sibling, a parent. And so the only way they can regain their power is to bully someone else, right? Or maybe they're that kid that just is an introvert and doesn't get along with anybody, has no friends, so they start bullying and they bully somebody, and then now they're getting attention because, hey, don't
Hmm.
mess with Lee, he's a bully, and
So
now everybody
true.
knows who I am. And so we can't always just, yes, the bully needs to be punished, but we need to also treat them as a victim and help them as well.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. All right. We have 2 more minutes left in the show.
Okay.
Please, what else did you want to share for today? Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that you know, if parenting doesn't come easy, and
True.
it's something that, you know, I wish when my kids were little that there was someone out there that I could reach out to that would help me to guide them, to give me advice. I'm not, you know, I don't tell you what to do. I give you information and I help you work through it to help you teach you skills on to become a better parent.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. And
You're
how can we
welcome.
reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach me a couple different ways. So my website is takeitoutdoorsparenting.com. Um, my email address is takeitoutdoorswellness@gmail.com. And my phone number is 669-294-4341.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you here and looking forward to the next time we get to connect. Thank you for enlightening us today with all this information. I hope people do reach out and get outdoors. Really. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jill, and good luck with your 10 and 8-year-old.
Ah, thanks so much. You too. Have a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.